Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Leadership and Politics with Dr. Abraham. I'm excited on this episode because I have a guest that is exceptional in everything she does. I'm talking about Dr. Diane Hamilton. She will share with us her latest discovery on curiosity and how we can improve our organizational environment, how we can improve our lives. Curiosity is the key. Knowledge is power. And for us to acquire power and knowledge, we have to be curious. Let's go. Let's see what Dr. Diane has to offer us. Dr. Diane, welcome to Leadership and Politics. Such a joy to have you.
Well, thank you for having me on the show. I was looking forward to this.
I know, same here, and it's been a while since we talked. The last time I saw you back December 2019, and COVID happened, and we didn't have the chance to see each other again. So it's a joy and honor to see you, and for you to join us and share your insights with our audiences, and listeners.
Yeah, we met at a Forbes event with Steve Forbes. It was quite an honor to get a chance to finally meet you and all the great people that were there. And congratulations on the show.
Likewise. Thank you for coming as well. And what I like, as you know, I'm a big fan of the work you do. What I like about you, Dr. Diane, and is the work you do. With all these years and successes you had, you achieved a lot in these years since I know you since 2012. So all these years, with your successes, you stayed to form. You stayed humble. Mm-hmm. You maintained your purpose of serving others, and basically you created opportunities for others, unlike, when somebody tastes a little bit of success, they block the way of others and they just move on and they don't see others in their way. You're different. You're different.
Well, I really appreciate that. That's really
congratulations to that. And as you know, in your podcasts, in your books, in everything you've done, you aim to have people have knowledge. You aim to enlighten them, you aim to educate them. And knowledge is very important thing to you to share with others. With that comes curiosity and what you've done in that specific field. But before we go into there, I want our audience, especially those people who are not familiar with what you do, if you can introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, everything you want to share and you're comfortable with.
Well, that's always a tough thing to answer because I do a lot of different things. Right. And it's kind of interesting when people ask me what I do. I tend to like to learn things and share them with others. And so I either do it through, I have a radio show. I have, my company is my main thing where I go to organizations and help develop curiosity, perception, emotional intelligence, soft skills, and behavioral issues within the organizations. So I'd say that's probably my biggest focus, but I love doing my radio show as well. I still teach for multiple universities. I'm the former MBA program chair at the Forbes School of Business where we got to meet.
Yes.
And I still teach sometimes for them and some of the local universities here. So I do a lot of different things, but it's all based around my interest in behavioral issues that impact organizations. And so I'm just somebody that is very curious about a lot of different things. This is my most recent book. Before that, I wrote several books in the past. They were about career reinvention and personality assessment. I wrote a book with my daughter called It's Not You, It's Your Personality. I even wrote a book about online education. So I've written about several different things, but this was my main book that got the most attention, and it's called Cracking the Curiosity Code. And as you can see, Steve Forbes wrote a really nice little blurb at the top. And if you could see the bottom, I don't know if people could see the bottom, but the foreword was by Keith Kroc. And Keith Kroc is the chairman, well, former chairman and CEO of DocuSign,
Yes.
and now undersecretary in Washington. And he is such an inspiration to me, as is Steve Forbes. And so I was really honored that the book got a lot of attention from a lot of big names, but we can look at the end product of a cake as in the workplace, we're looking at end product productivity, but let's just look at a cake. When you're baking a cake, you're combining eggs and flour and all the ingredients to make the cake. You put it in the pan and then you put it in the oven.
Okay.
And what happens? Well, if you don't turn on the oven, you don't get cake, you get goo, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
And so in the workplace, if our end product instead of a cake is productivity, money, and everything the company's trying to get, the ingredients are innovation, engagement, motivation, drive, all those things they're mixing together. They're putting it in the pan, but nobody's turning on the oven, and the oven is curiosity. And if you don't have that spark, that desire to explore and learn, you're going to lack engagement. It's going to lead to low creativity and low innovation and all the things that they're, all these other issues. So I think it's something that's really timely right now because we know that AI and is going to take over a lot of jobs. We got a lot of people. We know that Gallup says they're losing 500 billion a year.
Without a doubt, yes.
Right. So engagement's a huge problem. And if we could get people engaged and interested in what they do, we could do that through developing curiosity. And I work with big companies to do this.
What's curiosity? I mean, I like the metaphor you've put it in. This is excellent for someone who doesn't know it. But if you define it, what's curiosity all about?
Well, I think a lot of people would define it as the desire to explore new things. But I think for me, it's not just that. It's about what that means. That means not doing things just because they were always done a certain way.
Yes.
And the getting out of well, that's how we do it here. And that's how we've always done it. And not asking the question, well, what if we did it this way? And why aren't we trying this? And I think that that's the problem, is a lot of people aren't asking those questions. And I want to get those questions asked.
So an organization, when we establish an organization for a purpose. We establish an organization with an objective. We hire people, and then those people are expected to perform.
Right.
But not all people are the same. We are different. And then it becomes up to the managers or leaders to tap into certain mechanism to make these people behave in a way that make them perform. True?
Right.
So far, so good. So now comes the question, what can managers or leaders do to foster curiosity? Because based on the research, we know curiosity definitely, because knowledge is power.
Right.
And for you to seek knowledge, you need to be curious, right? There's a need for curiosity as you're seeking knowledge.
Right.
So first question is, what can leaders do to foster within the working environment in this organization curiosity?
Well, I think it's first important to recognize that even though they think that they might be fostering curiosity now, a lot of the research out of Harvard from Francesca Gino and others has shown that they're not actually having their employees feel that they're fostering curiosity. So even though they think they are, they may not be. And so that's a big problem with a lot of leaders. But the thing is if they really value curiosity as a core belief, and I know a lot of big leaders who do. Novartis I work with, they're doing amazing things. They have a curiosity month even. And I interviewed Xander Lurie. He's the head of SurveyMonkey. They change their address to something like One Curiosity Way or something because they're so into that. But I think, though, what you really have to do beyond anything else is recognize what inhibits curiosity. That's what I found. As I was writing the book, I started to realize that nobody had researched that in their assessments. All told you, are you curious or not? Kind of what your level is.
If I may.
What if you're not?
If I may. So based on the previous research in the 1961, 1990, we know we have the 5 traits of basically. And openness to experience, that was one way in curiosity. But it never researched what you discovered, which is the inhibitors of curiosity. So go ahead and tell us about what are these inhibitors.
What you're referring to, the big 5 factors. And when we're talking about openness to experience, it's not unlike some of the other assessments that are by Cashton and some of the other researchers out there where it tells you what your level is.
Yes.
Do you have a lot? Do you have a little? Yeah, well, that's good. But what if you have a little? And that's what I wanted to know. And so I did the research to find out what stops you from what it's inhibiting your curiosity.
Okay.
And that's what mine came out with. And it's, as you mentioned, FATE, which stands for fear, assumptions, technology, and environment, were the 4 factors I found inhibit curiosity. Because once you know what stops you, you can move forward.
Let's go to fear. Give me an example in fear, in the fear category.
Fear, I think, fear can encompass a lot of things. Fear of embarrassment, loss of control. Nobody wants to be the one asking questions in meetings. If no one else knows, maybe I'm the only one, kind of thing. You get this sense. Or you might have had a leader who shut you down, said some things like, don't come to me with problems unless you have solutions. Maybe you only can recognize the problem. You're not qualified to give the solutions, and that you're not going to tell them about anything, right?
Don't believe in you. Don't believe in
right.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of fear. Fear was actually the one I thought I'd hear the most. And I did hear a lot of it before I even did my validity testing for the Curiosity Code Index assessment.
Which we're gonna talk about that after this. Yeah.
Well, I had put a thread out on LinkedIn originally asking people what inhibited them. And I overwhelmingly got back a lot of fear-based reasons that they didn't explore.
You had what, 1,000 people responding?
I had thousands in my research.
Thousands.
But in that original thread, quite a few, I had hundreds have responded that made me interested in going on to doing other research that was, more towards the validity and doing factor analysis on the data.
So fear is the first one. So now we have to find a solution for leaders. What can they do to remove this fear from the environment so these people they've been inhibited to be curious to actually perform or become curious and seek knowledge?
Well, see, it's a process. Like, for example, when they take the assessment, they get 36 answers, 9 of them for fear, 9 of them for assumptions, 9 of them for technology, 9 of them for environment. And so each of those, it's not unlike taking a DISC or emotional intelligence or a Myers-Briggs, or, you get a PDF.
There's several of them.
Your result,
the 360 and others.
Yes. So you go through each of the things that maybe you fear. And as an individual, when I do the training to the individuals, we talk about all their different issues and we create kind of a personal SWOT action plan of their
SWOT analysis.
A SWOT analysis.
Okay.
For those who don't know, it's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. You look at some of these things, and then you create smarter goals with measurable type goals to overcome some of these things that are holding you back, that are fear-based. Do the same thing with assumptions, technology, and environment. And if you could figure out those things, that you get ranked, you get a kind of a rating of where you fall in these different areas. And so you go, okay, so I fear looking bad. And this is why, and you go back and you go through these discussions in these training classes. But even people who just take the assessment online, there's a lot of feedback that tells them this is what it is that is problematic for this area. Here's how you would create an action plan, and they can move forward from there. But if you want to go through the other ones, assumptions, that's really,
assumption,
some assumptions is really that voice in our head that tells us whatever we're saying to ourselves. This isn't going to be interesting. I studied this in the past. I didn't like it. My family's gonna make fun of me if I go in that direction. All the things that we say.
The self-doubters within.
It's that chatter, that just mind chatter that talks us out of doing anything. And that's problematic for so many people. I often give a talk where I hold up a bottle of water and I say, how heavy is this? And they'll say 8 ounces, 6 ounces, whatever they yell out. And I said, well, it doesn't matter how heavy it is. It's how long I hold it. If I hold it for a little while, not so heavy. A little longer, my arm starts to get tired. All day, my arm's paralyzed. That's how our thoughts are. And if we hold on to things and we ruminate, we don't do anything because we talk ourselves out of everything. So that's what assumptions are. And then technology was kind of an interesting one to me because it's kind of the under and overutilization of it in some respects. It's how much we fear it, and sometimes, but because it can overlap with fear, but it's more like the overwhelm more than fear. And it's the thought that, say you would have been the greatest mathematician in the world, but I gave you a calculator and that's all you know
how to use it.
You'll never know more, right? So we have to have high tech and low tech days in general, so we can learn the tech and utilize it to its best, but not overutilize it where we don't understand the foundation. And so there's a lot that goes in with technology. And then the last one is environment, which is a big one for a lot of people.
Oh,
and that's basically everybody you've ever known in your life. I mean, from your family to your teachers, to your friends, to your colleagues, your current boss, your past boss, social media, you name it. Everything that anybody's ever said to you influences you. If teachers couldn't answer your question, that influenced you. If your family always went into the family business, that influenced you. So you have to take a look and you think, huh, I always liked that, but they always kind of made fun of me, or I always liked that and they couldn't answer my questions and they didn't have time. Or if you go through all of these and you kind of correlate, you know, all these different things, it's fun to see this aha moment when I'm teaching these courses to these people, because not only do they solve their own problems, but after we go through in the corporations and do the individual assessments and work out what they can do, we do an overall corporate action plan based on all the top issues we mentioned before: engagement, motivation, say critical thinking, teamwork, whatever it is, their issues. And the people now that have learned what their curiosity issues are, and now they know what the company wants to fix, they give feedback to an overall report that goes to the leaders. And the leaders take this and they go have a whole, you know, book of here's how we solve the problems within the company. It's kind of like what Disney did. Disney had gone to their people in their laundry division because they're having high turnover. And they said, how can we make your job better? Simple question. Didn't think that they'd get something back that they could really use, but who knew? You know, so they thought, well, they're going to tell me they want $1 million. But instead, they got really reasonable things, like put an air vent over my desk, have my table go up and down so it doesn't hurt my back.
Change my environment, make it better.
And it was things, though, that they went to the horse's mouth to find out what can we do, and they got back things they hadn't considered. And that's what this does when we go through the second part of the training. When I teach people all this, that report we give to leaders is really like Disney going to the employees saying, how can we make things better? And then you find out the actual ways that they think it would work. And it gives you a whole new perspective. It lends empathy and everything to the equation. I've asked a lot of creativity experts and a lot of people on my show who deal with innovation. No matter who I ask on the show, what comes first, curiosity or motivation, curiosity or creativity, everybody says curiosity comes first. So it's the spark. It's the as we said with the oven. So we know we need to do that. We know we need to ignite this. And I think some companies are trying to get their people to read more and do more, but I think people need to know what's in it for them. Maybe if I, you know, explored this different part of the company, there's other opportunities for me. When AI takes over my job and I can't do this anymore, wouldn't it be nice to do that? Then I'd be more engaged, you know, so there's a lot of exploring that can be tied into it.
Definitely. And I think, as you know, I teach also MBA level organizational behavior. I've always told my students, and I share this with our leaders, and I'm sure with your permission and backing, I hope, there is no such thing as creativity without innovation. And there is no innovation without curiosity.
Yeah.
Because curiosity makes you think outside the box. You don't want the status quo anymore. You change it by thinking differently than others. And if you're not curious, you're going to maintain the status quo and you're going to stay for years in your job. Curiosity brings, as you said, that spark to make you think differently. You become the change agent and you become well informed and knowledgeable. Now, how do people, is what you've done in creating the index, you actually set the trend. I told you that before, you're a trendsetter. And I appreciate you for that. What can people do to get the index? With your permission, I'm going to put a link on to get directly to the index.
Well, they can go to curiositycode.com and that'll take them right to it. It's also on my site of drdianehamilton.com, and there's a curiosity link at the top. Either way, they could find me through that. If they want to take the index, it's there on the site. You can also get certified if you're an HR professional or if you're a consultant who trains in organizations and you want to become CCI certified. You can get 5 hours of SHRM certification credit, which is really great.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, it's a half day, asynchronous, take it whenever you want kind of training. And so that's been really popular. So there's, the book, everything's there. At the bottom of just drdianehamilton.com, there's also a free curiosity course. You can also get to it by typing in developingcuriosity.com, either way. And you can learn all about curiosity and see some videos and different presentations I've given. And I think a lot of people have been doing that just to find out more, and it's free.
It's free and it's helpful and beneficial to organizations. Yeah. So people in human resources out there, leaders listening to this, curiosity is the key to create an environment that is innovative and creative. And Dr. Diane Hamilton is the one who is making it happen. So I'm grateful for your insights, Dr. Diane.
Thank you so much.
I know we have you have limited time, so I'm going to keep it as short as possible. Now, teams, of course, you can't have teams without. I mean, curiosity puts a different spirit in teams. Is that true?
Well, it's interesting because I had Amy Edmondson on my show, who's the famous Harvard lecturer, and she writes a lot of great books, but she has a terrific TED Talk about teams versus teaming, where she gets into how they collaborated to get the Chilean miners out from that disaster under all that rock. And one of the main points she makes is for this collaboration to work in teams, you have to be curious. You have to let go of your ego and build that empathy through asking questions of what would this person need? How can I be of use to that particular area? And a lot of it is questioning and finding out more. And anybody who's been in sales knows that if you don't find out the problem and ask how you can solve their problem with your solutions, if you're just selling at them and don't even know that that's even something they need, you get nowhere. And it's the same, sales is applicable in all areas of business. I mean, you just,
Yeah, and to motivate people, you need to know what their needs are. And if you don't know their needs are, how can you have to have, as you said, direct feedback.
Yeah.
You get direct feedback, they tell you exactly what they want, and then you implement it. Curiosity leads to learning, leads to better environment, leads to improving everything, because you're seeking what they need. And if you need what they need, you satisfy the environment, and you satisfy them, and they will perform, because the goal is to have performance at the end of the day, to maximize the profit of the shareholders. So when you take care of the employees and you find out what they need, that's also an important element of reaching that performance and goal.
It's definitely so important to ask questions, to explore, I've had a lot of companies where they did surveys and they'd ask us questions and to find out our employee needs, but then they never shared what they did with that data. And I think if you do surveys in organizations, you really need to say, hey, see this coffee pot? This is here because you guys said you'd like to have, and show what you're doing with this information that you're gaining from your employees.
Oh, so you tell them, your advice to tell them. So this is one way of fostering, this is one way of fostering curiosity. And so you tell them exactly what they need. You tell them what you're doing, open communication.
Yes. And I also tell leaders that, I know a lot of you fear looking dumb just like anybody else. And if you want other people to get over their fears and go on to do these things that you're talking to them about, you have to embody this by saying, I know this is a stupid question. I normally wouldn't ask it, but since we're trying to develop our sense of curiosity through getting over our fears, I'm going to ask a question I normally wouldn't ask. And then that just gives you that, hey, I'm human too kind of vibe. Plus I'm embracing what I'm trying to get you to do. Here's how I'm doing it.
Did you discover why some of the leaders, they don't want to sound like they don't know? The fear of like, okay, I don't want to let them see me as. What's the reason?
Well, I think everybody, it's not that unusual for leaders because they're just humans in every job. You always want to be the best at what you can be. And when you're a leader, a lot of people put you on a pedestal of that you should know everything and that how'd you get there unless you did know everything. And nobody knows everything. That's one of the things I loved about Keith Kroc and why I asked him to write the foreword. He's so humble. He acts like he doesn't know everything, but I think he probably does. But he'll say, I hired the smartest people to be around me. And that's what you have to do. You have to surround yourself with people that don't know what you know. Know different things that you know.
Not only this, but you also give them credit.
Right.
You give credit to others. So that's appreciative. You're also on the board, I think, with DocSign.
Yeah, I've served on their board of advisors. I'm on a lot of boards. It's a lot of fun. I'm on with Radius AI here in Arizona.
You're everywhere. What's the name of your, I know what it is. So let's go out. What's the name of your podcast or your your
Well,
show, because you're syndicated everywhere.
yes. Well,
Yeah.
if you talk to your Echo or your Google Play, you can just say play Dr. Diane
Now I
Hamilton
love this.
podcast. But it's take the lead with Dr. Diane
Take
Hamilton.
the lead with Dr. Diane. How many guests have you interviewed or talked to?
I haven't counted,
Have
but I
you
think
ever
it's over
counted?
1,000. I think well, I have over 500 and something shows, and most of my shows have two people on
So
them.
people, so 1,000, between 1,000 to 1,500.
I don't know. It's over 1,000.
But you know that
Yeah, yeah.
that's 1,500 knowledge and insights you're putting into people, because people are learning from you. These shows and podcasts, you're providing insights to
Yeah,
help
I love
others.
it. I learn something every show. Every time I
Definitely.
get off of, I had two shows right before this. I do about 6 interviews a week.
How do you make time? I'm trying to
It's
make one show and I'm having too much.
you're exhausted, right? Yeah, I
Yes.
know it is exhausting. Some days I do 3 in a row, and about the third one in a row, you get tired. Well, it depends because the topics change. You could be talking
Yes.
Bitcoin, and then the next minute you're talking taxes, and then the next minute you're talking, curiosity or something else. So you're bouncing around, which makes it interesting. Because today I had a Hall of Fame speaker, and then after that I talked to somebody who was a restaurateur, and then now we're talking about this. So I just learn something new every hour, and I love it because it's never dull.
I have greetings. I want you to regards from Dr. Oleg. So I was talking to him yesterday. I said, Dr. Diane may be on the show. He said, please, my warmest regards to her. I said, I promise to convey that regards to you. Who is your favorite guests? I mean, I know you're a fan
Oleg's
of
right
me.
up there.
Oleg, yes. Who would,
It's so hard because I've interviewed people like Steve Forbes and Ken Fisher and Keith Kroc and Craigslist Newmark and Andrew Yang, who ran for
I
president.
mean, they're all fabulous.
They're all fabulous. And the
yeah.
women, I mean, I've just had, like I said, Amy Edmondson, Francesca Gino, just some of the top, Laura Wang, some of the people from Harvard, like I had Daniel Goleman, and, people that were you just like, wow. I mean, Albert Bandura is pretty amazing that I had Albert Bandura on the show. He's 93 and a half, I think, at this time. Tom Peters was awfully awesome. I mean, he was just awesome. It's everybody I've talked to. I mean, Crusoe, the celebrity dachshund, was one of my favorites, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
That guy that has this dog has created this business that's just unbelievable. So you never know who I have on.
But when you select them with a purpose to inform.
Well, it's just if it interests me. I know a lot of people have shows because they try to get business or they want it as something else. But for me, no, if I think that what they do is interesting, like Eric Weimer, the first blind guy to hike all the top, peaks in the world, and the river raft blind, you know what I mean? That interests me. Annie Duke, the poker playing, champion, and being female in that industry interests me. Molly from Molly's Game, the movie Breach, O'Neill from that. Yes. All those people are fascinating stories, and I love a good story. So curious.
And you are an excellent storyteller. You're doing it in a way that when you listen to Dr. Diane, you are mesmerized by listening, and then it continues. Recently, you had forgive me, it escaped my thoughts. You had a young doctor on your show, a show before this, the one you were just doing. The interview was an excellent interchange between you and him. His last name Mohammadari or something.
He was.
Is that you know what I'm talking about?
No, I definitely do. I can't pronounce his last name without it.
It's amazing show. The way you interacted with each other. There was a flow of communication. I love that show.
Yeah, but I get such great people on the show. Right before I was talking to you, I had a Hall of Fame speaker who sang to me 2 or 3 times on the show, and Willie Jolly sang to me on my show. So did Lynn Rose. I've had a lot of Hall of Fame speakers on the show.
You are there. Thank you for being humble
it's really
and joining the experience with us.
I'm
really grateful for that, Dr. Diane. What's your favorite color?
What's my favorite color? Oh, probably different shades of purple.
Different shades of purple.
Probably purple.
Different shades of purple. I like that.
Like that. And the sunset behind you has a little purple, maybe. So
it has on the right side. And your favorite book?
You know, when I was a kid, my favorite book was Flowers for Algernon. I always loved that book.
What's it all about?
It's a story of a guy who's born without a whole lot of intelligence, and they give him a surgery to make him smarter.
Wow.
They had performed on a mouse, Algernon, the mouse,
Mm-hmm.
had this surgery and became super bright, ran the mazes, and got the cheese really fast. And so they thought they
Mm-hmm.
could make him more intelligent. And the book is written from him. So he's writing and he's spelling things incorrectly because he's not very smart. And he's an adult at this age,
Mm-hmm.
kind of. And as they give him the operation, you could see it start to develop, his writing
His
starts to
intelligence.
improve, and he
Mm-hmm.
gets smart, and then he becomes this really genius guy. And then I don't want to ruin it for you, but it
But
doesn't
that's a
go well.
smart book. That's a smart book because this
Yeah.
is where curiosity came from.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I mean, if you think about it, it's like make you think, it make you curious what's going to happen next. So you seek knowledge.
It's a great book. If anybody
Yeah,
has any kids out there, you should, I mean, it's a high school, grade, mid,
yeah.
junior high kind of level book, but to me, I mean, at the earliest, it's not for little kids, but it's really a inspiring book to me.
Thank you for sharing that. What's your last message? For today's leaders out there? What is it? What does Dr. Diane Hamilton, the lady that created the index to make environments positive, harmonious, and also innovative, what do you want to tell leaders out there?
I want to tell them that they can't keep doing things status quo. We've learned a lot of that recently with COVID and everything else. What we think we can just do day in and day out is going to come into question, and you have to be ready to have foresight and be proactive. And to do that, you have to question, why are we doing things this way? How could we do things differently? If I want my workplace to embrace curiosity, how can I model that? What can we do to find out what's stopping people from being curious and help them develop it so that people will be better aligned, more engaged, and make us more productive?
Beautiful. It is curiositycode.com. This is where you need to go. This is where you need to inquire. So this way your environment becomes curious, becomes innovative, and becomes different and unique. Dr. Diane, thank you.
Thank you
Thank you
so
for
much.
making the time.
Really
Thank you for
nice.
being humble. Thank you for being who you are. And then God bless.
Thank you so much. Love the show. Really appreciate it.
You're most welcome.